All right, Chinese police stations and foreign interference in our elections. These are the topics du jour of this committee. And this is CSIS spokesman checking the comment in the description.
The venue in which we do it in, and quite frankly, that's the only difference that I have from the NDP on this particular concurrence motion. Thank you.
Sorry, I had to go back a bit in my memory here. I think at the time, first of all, I'm not sure that I would necessarily call them police stations. I think what we have seen over the past few months is individuals who have links back to the PRC or who are supporting some of the work of the PRC. Often individuals who have been perhaps co-opted. We at one point were looking at, and it was in the media, I think there were 3 that were being looked at, and the RCMP was fully engaged in regards to those stations, and I wouldn't want to comment any more in regards to the activities of the RCMP.
On, and he quotes lots of things. Well, I'd like to quote something from the media. It's breaking news, and perhaps he'd like to check his phone about a breaking news right now of a Liberal MP that secretly advised a Chinese diplomat in 2021 to delay the freeing of the 2 Michaels. I would like to ask this honourable colleague for a comment onto that.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Well, I'm sitting here, Mr. Speaker. I've been speaking for the last 15 minutes, not including interruptions. I'm unaware of the breaking news that this member is referencing. I'm looking forward to look into it. But we see, once again here, Mr. Speaker, the exact same rhetoric that comes from Conservatives.
I wouldn't want to comment any more in regards to the activities of the RCMP.
Is it your understanding that they're continuing to operate or that they've been closed?
Point of order, Chair.
Go ahead with your point of order.
Thank you. Our study is on social media platforms. I'm trying to see the connection between our study and the questions being asked.
Sure,
of the
Mr.
witnesses.
Barrett will make a connection at some point. Go ahead, Mr. Barrett. I understand your point, but
On that
it's
point
his
of
time.
well,
I'm
on
going to
that-
give him. I'm
on
going
the
to give
point
him
of
his
order,
time.
then,
Go
Chair?
ahead.
On the point of order.
Go ahead, Mr.
Well,
Barrett.
the question is speaks to transnational repression, and I think that it's important to establish that there's foreign state actors engaged in this, and the activity that is done. You know, in the example that I'm attempting to ask the witnesses about. Is perpetrated by the same state actors who are engaging in this transnational repression using social media technologies, and some of which were outlined in the initial statements. But I mean, I'm not sure how much I need to qualify my line of questioning, but I'm happy to go further on the committee's time, but not out of my questioning time, if that's what you'd like.
Okay, thank you. And just for the benefit of members of the committee, I generally try to give a lot of latitude to each member who's given their 6 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever the case is. I expect that Mr. Barrett's going to make a connection. He made a compelling argument there, and I'm going to continue with Mr. Barrett. I did stop your time. You have 4 minutes and 51 seconds. Go ahead.
So, Beijing conducting transnational repression activities here on our soil, evidenced by these so-called police stations, if you will, meaning that Chinese Canadians are being targeted for intimidation and influence. That's the purpose of these so-called police stations.
So what I would say to that is I wouldn't specifically focus on the so-called police stations. What I would say to you is there is absolutely foreign interference activity happening in our country, but it can come in all forms and varieties. By focusing on just the police station, I worry that individuals would then miss what else is happening in the environment.
I have had the privilege of being elected to this House, and I believe I have served honorably and pledge to continue to serve honorably and fulfill my oath of office. I will continue to serve the residents of Don Valley North as an independent member of this House.
I appreciate that. Is it understood that it's a technique of the dictatorship in Beijing to scrape social media to be able to isolate and target the people that they're looking to that are the intended targets of those repressive activities? Is social media a tool that is used so that their agents that are acting out of these locations they can gather that intelligence and then target those individuals?
So I think that's a really interesting question and one that we actually need to discuss. And a lot of it comes to how Canadians protect their own personal information, or any citizen of the world, let's say. So if you are quite open at putting a lot of your personal information out on social media, absolutely hostile states are going to be able to scrape that data, regardless. It doesn't have to be China. It could be other hostile states that we're dealing with. And I think that's also very important. Don't lose sight of all of the hostile activity directed against Canadians by focusing on just one actor. It's really important to totally protect all of your social media access, your data that you put out on there, because you're absolutely right in the comment that you made that hostile states will pull that information, they can collate and they can crunch the big data, and they can do very targeted attention if they want to.
So
I'm taking this extraordinary step because sitting the government caucus is a privilege, and my presence there may be seen by some as a conflict of duty.
foreign state actors don't just target the diaspora communities within our country. They also target elected officials, and we've seen media reports about those efforts. In recent months, we saw that there were stories about a spamiflage campaign targeting certain politicians on their social media. Has the dictatorship in Beijing been identified as the source of that campaign?
Sami, would you be able to answer that particular question? I'm not. Okay. I'm not sure if I could indicate whether or not it went actually back to China. I'd have to go back and see what actually we knew about that. But what I can say is, again, you're very right. Individuals will pull all of that data and target who they feel is somebody that they either need to try and repress, they want to get more information on them, they want to try and influence them in regards to the activities they may be engaging in. So absolutely, social media can be used in order to collect the information to do that.
And the wrong place to be as an independent investigation pursues the facts in this matter.
And so these are foreign interference activities. Even if you aren't able to say which foreign state actor is responsible, that's what these activities are.
I would term that as a foreign interference activity, yes.
And are you able to say how many Canadian politicians have been targeted by foreign state actors engaging in these interference activities? Just a number, if you could.
Yeah, I couldn't give you a specific number, but again, what I would say is every single politician, member of parliament should always be aware and protect their personal information, their privacy, and be aware of if somebody or an entity is trying to approach you in order to engage in some sort of foreign interference activity. It can come in all forms and shapes.
Sure. Are you able to say how the rapid response mechanism came into play in the case of the spamiflage targeting of elected officials?
No, that would be GAC. GAC would be, or Foreign Affairs is the one that manages the rapid response mechanism.
Sure. So at what point is your understanding that government is made aware of attempts by foreign state actors to target Canadians, including Canadian politicians? Is it specifically GAC, or does our national security agency like CSIS engage at some point, obviously being aware that this is ongoing?
Yep, so absolutely. The Minister of Public Safety back several months ago issued a ministerial directive which indicated that if we became aware of, within the service, of activities of negative activities directed against politicians by hostile foreign states, then we were to look at the information, determine the threat value of that information, and then reach out and advise the various political.
I want to thank the member for his statement to assure him that the House will be making the appropriate changes to the seating plan.
John report.
Take a quick breather here for a few moments before we go back to Q's and comments.